Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 38 has just released, and we have the entire battle between HASCHWALTH and BAZZ-B adapted from the manga. This includes the several flashbacks featuring their younger selves. This episode is titled Friend, and it adapts slightly over 4.5 chapters worth of manga content with some anime exclusive additions. We have new visuals and scenes which expand upon the backstory of HASCHWALTH and BAZZ-B, and the episode reveals how the two characters had met and what had made them decide to train together, and how each of them had joined Yhwach's army. We also learn about what had happened to sour their friendship, transforming it into a one-sided rivalry. Episode 38 covers everything from chapters 630 to 634, ending with the defeat of BAZZ-B. We literally only have one more week left of the Bleach anime, as next week we will be getting episodes 39 and 40 releasing on the same day on the 28th of December. So do be sure to stick around until the very end of the video, as I'll be discussing what we can expect from the finale of Cour 3. I'll also be going over the incredible staff who have worked on this week's episode of Bleach. So without further delay, let's dive into my review and analysis of Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 38 titled Friend. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Hollow Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. With episode 38 adapting 4.5 chapters worth of manga content, it definitely hits the sweet spot where there's not only enough time to properly adapt the manga content, but there is also quite a bit of room to make some meaningful additions to the material. And this is what had made this episode so entertaining and heartbreaking to watch. Episode 38 does an excellent job of twisting the knife in a way that the manga never did, as the stunning art and animation elevates the story of BAZZ-B and HASCHWALTH. Now, following their last interaction in episode 36, which was essentially BAZZ-B declaring war against HASCHWALTH and Yhwach, episode 38 begins with a very brief flashback of the first time that the two of them had met. It's a clever way of subtly pointing out how deep their bond is, and it sets up a number of questions in the viewer's mind as to what had happened between them. It forces you to compare these two instances and begin to wonder how these childhood friends had grown so apart as adults. Following the opening song, we're brought back to the present, where BAZZ-B once again makes it clear that he's here to kill HASCHWALTH. Again, the episode continues this alternating approach where the audience is forced to compare their past relationship with their current one. One thing that I wasn't expecting to see was a rather detailed anime original extension on how Yhwach had come to destroy BAZZ-B's childhood home. We actually see the whole event unfold, and it's pretty disturbing. Surprisingly, we do get to see Zeidritz and Hubert, who I was almost certain that Kubo had forgotten about, but I'm glad that they do make an appearance here. And we also have the female Quincy from the episode 24 flashback between Ichibei and Yhwach make an appearance here, and I was wondering, why would Kubo go out of his way to create an anime original female Quincy for Yhwach's Empire of Light? She is a really interesting character whose existence has quite a few implications, and the fact that she's been shown again here during the burning down of BAZZ-B's home does make me wonder whether if Kubo does have any larger plans for this character in the anime. I love how episode 38 handles the flashback of Yhwach's invasion of BAZZ-B's home, and the manga mostly glosses over this and doesn't really do much with this moment, which makes sense because we've actually reached the point in the manga where the pacing had started to get a little too fast for the story's own good. So I'm glad that we are now getting to see the full potential of the 1000 Year Blood War arc in the anime, because the fact that we see the massacre from BAZZ-B's perspective really hammers in how much trauma this moment had caused him. It kind of confirms the fan theory that the reason that BAZZ-B had manifested his shrift ability as the Heat was actually born from a fear of fire as some sort of trauma response. After seeing this event firsthand, we truly get to appreciate how terrifyingly cruel Yhwach was even 1,000 years ago. I'm glad that this moment was expanded upon, as it now makes sense as to why BAZZ-B wants to kill Yhwach, even going as far as to join the Sternritter solely for the purpose of taking revenge against him. Following this, the anime also gives us a a healthy dose of anime original visuals along with another anime exclusive scene where we see HASCHWALTH and BAZZ-B sitting around a fire. This was easily one of my favorite flashback scenes from this episode. Hearing HASCHWALTH admit that he fears that he won't be able to be of much help to BAZZ-B, and hearing BAZZ-B reassure him actually plays a much bigger role in the story than you may think. This is because throughout the manga, you'd notice that HASCHWALTH's lack of talent as a Quincy isn't something that's directly talked about between the two of them. We know that BAZZ-B thinks about this following his 5 years of training with him, and HASCHWALTH admits it when they first meet Yhwach, but the two never actually bring it up in a serious conversation with each other. But in this anime original scene, they actually do. So the fact that the scene takes place before the 5 years of training, it kind of implies that HASCHWALTH had given himself a deadline of 5 years in order to gain Quincy abilities. Even after training tirelessly for 5 years, HASCHWALTH was reminded of how much of a failure that he was when he had made no progress with his Quincy powers, thus leading to him feeling like he was an hindrance to BAZZ-B, and thus making it easier for him to feel happy when he was chosen by Yhwach, because in his mind he was glad that he had now gained a new way to be useful to BAZZ-B, despite not being a strong Quincy. But when HASCHWALTH looks over to Baz, he sees resentment in his eyes, as BAZZ-B wonders how is it that HASCHWALTH was selected to be Yhwach's right-hand man and he wasn't. The battle that occurs in the present day between them is adapted incredibly well, as it's pretty much one-to-one with the manga, and every single fight scene in this episode was animated so well, and it does help that I wasn't really expecting there to be some anime original fight scenes here, since my expectations were set on HASCHWALTH and BAZZ-B's flashbacks being expanded upon, which did end up happening. Now, ever since episode 38 had released, there's been a small but vocal section of the fanbase who claimed that the episode is bad because it didn't expand upon their fight. Well, I can definitely understand this sentiment, but I have to admit that I disagree, because the friend battle was never actually about the fight. Right from the onset of this battle, everybody had known that BAZZ-B was coming to die. Not only had he lost his Volstandig, but he also had multiple injuries even before the fight had started, all the while trying to fight against an enemy who would have still casually defeated him even at his best. Unfortunately, this was a stomp fight through and through, and I don't really see how this fight could have been expanded upon any further. I think that this episode does an excellent job of capturing the emotional beats of the manga, as well as elevating the HASCHWALTH vs BAZZ-B fight with the incredible art and animation that we see here. Overall, episode 38 in terms of story was a one-of-a-kind experience, and it adapted the manga content phenomenally well, and it had done so very accurately. Now let's talk about the amazing people whose hard work had led to this masterpiece of an episode. Pyro Films have done an incredible job with the Core 3 anime, and this episode is no exception. In my opinion, I think episode 38 has cemented itself as an absolute classic, not just for the 1000 Year Blood War arc anime, but for the entire Bleach anime as a whole. The episode's storyboarder, Toshiyuki Suru, is an absolute legend of an animator who had come out of retirement to give us episode 7 of Core 1. His return for episode 38 is another fantastic addition in his resume of masterpieces, and it's clear that despite the many years that have passed since his prime Naruto days, he definitely hasn't lost his touch. I don't even know where to begin with this episode. While I think that it might fall short a little bit animation wise, I do think that this episode gets really close to the level of art and animation that we got in episode 7 of Core 1. Mr. Suru shows an unparalleled level of environmental awareness and uses Varovelt's infrastructure to frame scenes in a very engaging manner. It adds a certain level of tension to BAZZ-B and HASCHWALTH's already intense encounter, despite being an episode that adapts the manga's content very faithfully. It still manages to offer a completely different visual experience to the manga. Now, a large reason for why this is the case is because of the director of the episode, Dali Chen. I think that I speak for everyone when I say that Dali Chen has easily become one of the Bleach production's greatest assets, and he once again proves his worth with his directorial role in this episode. Everything about episode 38 hits so incredibly well, and the decision to begin the episode with a brief flashback of how HASCHWALTH and BAZZ-B had met is an amazing tone setter for the rest of the episode. There were also some really amazing soundtrack placements which elevated the emotional scenes of this episode, and while Dali Chen didn't animate in this episode, it wasn't really necessary since we had a lot of very strong key animators present. I'm really looking forward to seeing what work Dali Chen does on Core 4 because he's truly a fantastic talent, and I hope that he is given more free reign over the anime original scenes in Core 4. This episode episode featured not only great character art but also incredible background art. The flashback sequences showed the Empire of Light as a bright and colorful kingdom with amazing architecture. We also had some great backgrounds for the snowy forests and even the town squares, and everything feels so alive and different from anything that we've seen before. That shot of seeing young HASCHWALTH swinging his sword and we see the streaks of sunlight through the snowed up forest behind him is honestly wallpaper material. And for this we have to thank our fantastic animation directors like our very own Cindy Yamauchi, Sayoko Ozawa, Tomoko Hayashi, and Kazuo Takikawa. We also had the talented Sei Komatsubara as the chief animation director, who was the icing on the cake for this team and greatly contributed to all of the episode's art. In terms of key animators, this episode was very stacked as we had Yuki Sato, as her presence was once again felt in episode 38, and it seems like she animated BAZZ-B's burning full finger scene, which you see clearly with her iconic foreshortening and perspective shots. We also had returning veterans like Katsuhiro Takagi, and we also had Akira Teramoto. Now what I found most interesting was the high number of Chinese animators that we got on episode 38, not just any but really talented ones like Songlin Yao and Guanju Wu. It does make me wonder whether if they are Zhengji Huang's students from Studio Gear or rather Dali Chen's connections, either of which bode incredibly well for Bleach because it would mean that they'd most likely be able to help with Core 4. Honestly, I feel like I haven't been able to do the staff of this episode the justice that they deserve because they all did such amazing work on this episode, and I'm truly grateful for all of the hard work that they have done. Now, after episode 38 had aired, following it we had a short look back preview which summarized the events of episodes 25 to 38. Now this was done in preparation for the 1 hour special which they are teasing for next week. Now this isn't a complete 1 hour special, it's just 2 episodes releasing on the same day, and this is on December 28th, and this will be the finale of Core 3. So the synopsis for the finale of Core 3 is that the battle between the Shinigami and the Quincy intensifies as the Shinigami race towards Vaharvelt's main castle, but blocking their way is Gerard Valkyrie, despite the continuous attacks from the Gote 13's captains placing him in an unfavorable position. Gerard remains composed, as he claims that miracles only awaken in moments of crisis. The finale of Core 3 will also feature Ichigo, Orihime, and Chad, who are driven into a corner by Askin Naklava's abilities, causing them to suffer from reishi poisoning. Now Yoruichi does arrive to assist as she takes on Askin in battle, allowing Ichigo and the others to press onward. Everything begins to connect now after surviving fierce battles, as the finale of Core 3 is building up towards a climactic clash between Ichigo and Uryu. So this episode's 25 to 38 look back preview which was released, I have linked it in the description of this video and I've pinned it in the comments too, so definitely go and check it out after this video, as this preview does tease the finale of Core 3. So that was my initial thoughts on Bleach 1000 Year Blood War episode 38. This episode was once again faithful to the manga with a few additions that expanded upon BAZZ-B and HASCHWALTH's backstory, and thankfully nothing was cut from the chapters that were adapted. I think that we are now ready for the 2-episode finale of Core 3 next week. Episode 39 is revealed to be titled The Visible Answer, and this is named after chapter 660. The episode was teased with a poem which features HASCHWALTH, and in the manga this is the part of the story where HASCHWALTH confronts Uryu and asks him to prove his allegiance to Yhwach. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is going to be implemented in the anime, and I do believe from this point onwards, the remainder of Core 3 and the rest of Core 4, the anime will have significant changes from the manga, as it's going to be adding and expanding upon so many different sections that needed more context within the manga. So I'm honestly really looking forward to that. Now, what did you think about episode 38 of the 1000 Year Blood War arc anime? Did you enjoy the battle between HASCHWALTH and BAZZ-B? What are your expectations for the finale of Core 3, which promises to show us more of Gerard Valkyrie and Uryu? And lastly, I do want to thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow for my manga versus anime comparison for the latest episode of Bleach. Also, do stick around to the channel as I have all of the latest information from Jump Festa 2025, as Bleach has 2 panels at the event. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to be the first to know about the latest Bleach news that is released at the event. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.